the amount of money they take in goes up so much and the salary cap goes up so much every year that 55 million will be a steal in 2 years when quarterbacks are getting 70. So in the end, it's really not that big a deal. But Trevor Lawrence is not as good as everyone thinks he is.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with us today, full house, starting with our team leader, Mike King. Mike, how you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good. Ready to talk with you guys.
All right. Captain for life, Will Cotton. Will, what's going on?
I'm doing good.
And hopefully not sneaking in college baseball talk today. Inside joke. George Ockett. George, what's going on, man?
Not much. Glad to be here.
All right. On today's show, we're going to get everybody ready for the preseason. We've got some contract talk. We got people in camp. We got people out of camp. We got folks cheating for no reason. We'll talk about all of that. But first, you are worth whatever somebody is willing to pay you. And the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence have agreed to be together for the next 5 years. The deal is worth $275 million. The contract includes $200 million guaranteed and $142 million at signing. So who is in this $55 million club? Well, you got Joe Burrow. You got Justin Herbert. You got Jared Goff. You got Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. Patrick Mahomes is the next highest paid quarterback at $46.3 million. I'm sure that's going to change. But why does Trevor Lawrence's contract give me pause? He has 60 turnovers in the first 3 seasons, even though people don't count that first one with Urban Myers. There are only 11 quarterbacks since 1978 who's turned the ball over more. That includes Warren Moon, Steve DeBerg, Peyton Manning, and John Elway. But with that said, George, this is the going rate for quarterbacks. What are your thoughts about Jacksonville?
That was the market. The market was already set. They have one of the, I guess you would say, top younger quarterbacks to be in that category. So he is going to make that money. The crazy thing with this is, and I know we've been talking about it because I sent out the text on the wire as soon as it right after it was announced. It just sets the market for the rest of them. You got Dak on the line and a couple other ones. So they got to join the club too, because that's what you got to pay your quarterback. And you know, it's the most important position on a football team. So you have to pay if you have somebody who is at right now decent or really decent right now. So that's the way it is. That's the way it goes.
Mike, where is Danny Dimes at on this list? And what are your thoughts on Jacksonville?
I was about to bring that up because funny, this as soon as Trevor Lawrence signed this deal, a lot of they get the stat head football's got the side to side. How do careers compare? They're the same. These two guys are the same. Let's see, completion percentage. Daniel Jones better by 0.5%. Passing yards, he's got 800 more yards, 10 more games. So that's worse per game. Touchdowns about the same. Interceptions about the same. QB rate, Daniel Jones is better. Rushing attempts, it's not even close. Daniel Jones blows them out of the water for rushing yards, attempts, touchdowns, yards per attempt. They're the same guy. The difference is y'all hated Daniel Jones when he got drafted, so he's a bum. And everyone liked Trevor Lawrence when he was a freshman in college, so he's good. They're the same guy. And Daniel Jones is overpaid at $40 million a year. So Trevor Lawrence is really overpaid at $55 million a year. That being said, I remember when Mahomes signed that deal at 46, and it was like, you're overpaying Mahomes because that's so much. Because that was when people were making in the 30s. And then the NFL, the contract, the amount of money they take in goes up so much, and the salary cap goes up so much every year that 55 million will be a steal in 2 years when quarterbacks are getting 70. So in the end, it's really not that big a deal. But Trevor Lawrence is not as good as everyone thinks he is. Look at the stats. He's Daniel Jones.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
So, Will, People are telling me, don't count Trevor Lawrence's first year because Urban Myers was a complete disaster. Where do you fall on that argument? Is he really better than Mike gives him credit for, or Bill Parcells says you are, what your record says you are, or in this case, your stats say you are? What say you, Will?
I don't know. I think Daniel Jones is a really good quarterback. I thought he was going to be better. I thought he was coming better, but he's just missing. I don't know. It's just the eye test. The eye test for me says Trevor Lawrence is the better quarterback every time. Every time, 10 out of 10, I would take it. Now, if you look in the stats and look the deep dive, then we can say they're pretty much the same. But one has had a little bit more success, but they've also had better pieces around them. You know what I'm saying? A little better defense. They have a decent, they're paying wide receivers. They're trying to make it work. They have a big whole deal with they're always getting exposure in London because that's where they play. So he's the bigger name now. The Jaguars mean a lot more to him. He should be thanking Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones. Both of their contracts basically said that they ain't gonna pay me less than these bums. So Trevor Lawrence came and did his thing. I think he's better than Daniel Jones. I know the Giants would make that trade in a second if it was one-on-one. He had a couple injuries earlier this season. I mean, last season, which kind of, hampered some things. I think he's never really had that before. So he's had to kind of fight through that. But, sky's the limit, man. Now, like George said, this is the going rate for quarterbacks. And this at least puts some stability on your team for the next 3-4 years, and you can try and build around that. So I'm not mad at the contract on both sides. And to be honest with you, in 3 years, it'll be a cheap contract anyway. So I feel bad for the Cowboys because they're going to have to really drop the bag for Dak Prescott.
All right. So with that, is it finally just about football? The Cleveland Browns have been a part of many lost episodes of the Odd Coaches podcast. Shout out to the franchise. Whenever the words Deshaun Watson was mentioned, we kind of tiptoed to the side. But now there's a growing optimism that the Browns are just focused on football. They hired Ken Dorsey to replace Alex Van Pelt as their offensive coordinator. They got Deshaun Watson, who struggled since being traded to Cleveland. He's had some injuries. But now you've got wide receivers, you got running backs, you have a full off season. George, what are your thoughts on Cleveland? Have they now gotten through the dark times and is glory coming to the Browns?
There's never not a dark time in Cleveland. It's like there's like a cloud that hangs over that team. On paper, that team can play with anybody. When they're all healthy and on the field, that team can play with anybody. But something crazy always happens, whether it's Deshaun going down, whether it's Nick Chubb going down, there's always some injury that just derails their season. But when they're healthy, they're dangerous because nobody wants to see them. I think that they're like a whole 50% winning percentage is like 50% better when Deshaun is there and when he's playing. Because last year it was just they juggled about whoever they could put under center. So even though Deshaun's had, he hasn't been the same guy he was when he was with Texas. And I don't think he's really had an opportunity because either he's gone down or somebody important around him's gone down. And plus he, stay out of massage parlors, these things will happen to you. But that team looks to do some serious damage this year. And it's the same question with them since they've got Deshaun Watson. As long as they can stay healthy, they're going to be a problem. They'll make some noise. They'll make the playoffs. Hell, they made the playoffs without Deshaun Watson for him missing half the year last year. So that tells you how good that team is. But to my point, I swear, dog, it feels like there is a dark cloud hanging over Cleveland. The city itself, any team associated with it is always going to have a problem. It just is what it is. Whether it's the Guardians, whether it's the Browns or the Cavaliers, something bad is going to happen in that situation. So,
Mike, you were around for some of these conversations that didn't happen. Has Cleveland got over the hump, or is George right about the cloud of smoke hanging around Cleveland?
Well, I think they're just going to be a product of the division they're in. We talked about all those contracts. 2 of those quarterbacks are in that division, and it's the better 2 quarterbacks of all the quarterbacks that we named that were making 50 whatever million. So you got Lamar, you got the Ravens are always going to be good, right? The Steelers are always going to be 500. So you're hoping to split because that's what they do. And then you got the question mark of, are the Bengals going to take the next step? But I don't look at the Browns as like clearly better than any of those teams. I would put them more in the Steelers kind of level. But that means there's losses on the schedule, I guess is my point. So Deshaun could be healthy and they could still be the 3rd best team in the division, which it's very hard for 3 teams to make it. It happens, but it's hard. It happens. It depends on the other divisions. If you're the 3rd best team in a division, you need a bunch of other divisions in your conference to just be terrible. And it's possible because in the AFC, there's some terrible divisions, but you're relying on that happening again. I don't know.
All right, Will, close us out. Deshaun Watson, is he finally back to being Deshaun Watson?
I don't think so. I don't think he was, even when he was in Houston, he was that like amazing and woo, wow, wow. They're always going to be a footnote. They're always going to be a team that you're like, oh yeah, they do have Watson. They have this guy, and oh yeah, man. And then you look at the record and you're like, oh, they are 4-2 or 5-2. And then, like George said, something always happens. Somebody get hurt. But the big thing is, as Browns fans, that at least your team is trying. You're trying to get the offense going with Jerry Jeudy. Trying to make. Trying to upper. I forgot the other running back, but Nick Chubb is looking good walking around. I mean, how much can you believe that? So I mean, you get the people. There's a lot of what's it called? Dark days in Cleveland, George. But there's going to be a lot of people who are believing they have some umbrellas because they know what's going on. But I think they'll be okay. Like Mike Ching says, they'll be there. Like 2nd or 3rd best team in the division. I think, depending injuries, things like that. They're good enough to be a playoff team, catch them on like wild card weekend. And if they're lucky enough, division weekend. But that's about it. I mean, that's about it. I'm not expecting any conference championships or even a super. Yeah, I'm not even gonna say that word. But yeah, 3rd or 4th. I think they're right there.
Why are we hating on a team that everybody in the division is like, I don't want to play them? And we are, but only because of injury. They went into last year as the favorite to win the division, and then they got attacked by injuries. They're in the best division in football, and it wasn't the best last year because we had the problems with quarterback in Pittsburgh. Joe Cool went down in Cincinnati, which changed the whole landscape of things. So you're talking about a team that made the playoffs and won that probably the hard, was second place in the hardest division with no quarterback. No quarterback. They quarterback got by committee. That defense is that good. Mike's going to stick the numbers as usual, but when you look by talent, position by position, that team's one of the best teams in football. As long as they stay healthy.
One of the best teams in football and the 3rd best team in their division.
That's why I said,
team in their division.
I'm not making them the 3rd best team if everybody stays healthy. They're the 3rd best team because people get hurt all the time.
I'm not betting against the Ravens. They win every
year. It's between them and the Steelers. I think it's them and the Steelers. Whoever has the better record is going to be in the playoffs somehow in the wild card.
Personnel wise, like I said, it has to be played out on the field. But if you want to start preseason, personnel wise, they're the second. They're at least the second. They're easy the second best team in that division.
All right, and with that, when we get back, as Bobby Heenan once said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. We'll tell you what that means when we get back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student-athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey. Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 2. Bobby Heenan lives. Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. The Atlanta Falcons were docked a 5th-round draft pick in the 2025 draft and fined $250,000 for violating the NFL's anti-tampering policy related to free agent. The tampering occurred when they were making improper contact with Kirk Cousins and several other players. Now, fellas, it was Kirk's fault. After Kirk signed a 4-year deal worth up to $180 million, during the introductory news conference, he mentioned that he spoke to the Falcons head trainer before the deadline of the new year league opening. So what are we doing, man? Mike, I'm coming to you first. Was it worth it to cheat for Kirk Cousins?
Well, it depends, because they got caught, but a 5th-round pick doesn't really matter much. But yeah, every team cheats. Some get punished, some don't, as we'll talk about in the next part of the segment. But yeah, they all do it. Then the NFL randomly throws a dart and says, "You lose a 5th, you lose nothing."
Right. Right.
All right. So, George, the Eagles also had some issues. The NFL did not discover sufficient evidence to support a finding of anti-tampering by the Eagles, even though Saquon Barkley signed and James Franklin, head coach at Penn State, had mentioned some potential illegal things, just talking. What are you thinking about the Eagles and they're not getting in trouble for the tampering?
They are, the NFL is a lot like, they remind me a whole lot of the NCAA and how they dish out disciplinary actions. And then I love that last statement that they have about, it was insufficient evidence to come up with, to warrant a suspension or something. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like they do what they want to do. Who's contributing the most money? Who's the most important in at that point in time in the season or look to be. So I think it's really it really comes down to who you are and who you know at that point in time and how important you are to the NFL, to the money machine that is the NFL. I think that it's inadequate how it goes. It's very inadequate.
So, Will, both teams, they cheated. You know they.
Yeah, for sure.
What are your thoughts as our compliance person on this? Should this even be punished? Should they even care? What do you think, man?
Like George says, man, the NFL is like the mafia, man. They just go in and whoever, gives the right, kisses on the right hand or, my father, my friend is my friend, it's one of those things, man. They don't really like Atlanta. I guess they don't like Arthur Blank that much. But I guess Eagles are a time-tested, traditional team. They kind of looked a little the other way. But that's what they do, and they're just in a way to tell people we ready for the games to start too. Because I don't even know why they even did notions of that. So, I wouldn't even worry about nothing.
All right. So, fans, when we get back in segment 3, we're going to talk about, do you even need to be in training camp? We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. It's segment 3. Do you really need to be there? So we've got training camp ending, and now we've got the 6 weeks separation or whatever we're doing before we come back in. So the New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers missed mandatory minicamp, and he's planning to skip even more because he won't be attending the mandatory minicamp all weeks, and the absences are not excused. George, you're my football guy. Does Aaron Rodgers need to be at minicamp?
No. We're at a point right now where these athletes work out and train and do all the things that they need to do with private trainers. They have the playbook, so they got schemes that they already know the schemes. They know what they're doing. Yeah, you can sit there and talk about getting to know your players and timing and all of that. Look, a person like Aaron Rodgers, who we're not even going to get into the other off the field crap that comes along with him. His right arm's in shape. I guarantee you half the wide receivers have been down or met with him, so they know where they are, so they got their time together. He's working out. He's throwing every day. Mini camp and the stuff leading up to camp period are really to acclimate incoming players, to take a look at your younger players to see what they have. Because, a lot of guys that get signed to contracts or that weren't drafted or drafted late get signed to contracts, and you want to get a look at them up close to see exactly what happens. It's for the team and do some more evaluation. It's not preparing any veteran for the season because they're already doing it, and they've been doing it all year round anyway. So they'll be in shape. This will mean nothing. Aaron Rodgers will come into camp. He'll be ready to roll. He won't be out of shape. Well, that's if he's not on somebody's ticket or something, running for vice president or whatever other crap, all the other crap he's doing. But he'll be ready. I mean, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Coming in, him and every other veteran. So
Will, you're a football player. The Saints. Alvin Kamara was absent from the final practice. He was at the facility for the walkthrough. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He's one of the last remaining Saints to not have his contract taken care of. He did not go through OTAs. Are you in agreement with George? Does he need to be at minicamp?
No, he does not. He's been there so long enough. They know his name. He's always in shape. When it comes to camp, they never have to worry things like that. He's protecting his body too, because he knows, man, if he wants a contract, he shouldn't be out there running. And next thing you know, he gets an ankle, and then he's starting the season slow and things like that. So he's taking his time, man. So I'm not worried about him. He's getting, and like you guys said, he's been to the Saint forever. It hasn't changed from, what I'm saying. But yeah, I wouldn't be worried about nothing. He's not nobody I would be like, oh no, he's not, not showing up. And somebody will pay him outside of this game anyway. So I think if it's not the Saints, it'll be someone. I don't know if he's going to get what he wants, but
hey,
I wouldn't stress too much.
He's the last running back making decent money, so he don't want to get hurt either. So he ain't not coming to camp, dog. He ain't coming.
Okay, so Mike, Arizona, Kyler Murray has been injured and he has made it a point to be in camp. Last year, he missed much of the on-field portion of the offseason, returning from an ACL injury. The Cardinals did not have a very good season. Tyler's there. Does that make a difference, or it doesn't matter?
He's there because he has something to prove. He's got to live up to the contract. But him and Alvin Kamara shouldn't be there because their teams are junk and they're not going to do anything. The only one who should be there is Aaron Rodgers, but he's on a vacation. But the Jets, like every year, pretending they have a chance at winning a Super Bowl. So what is it? Is this like an all-in year for a Super Bowl, or do I got to go on my vacation, which I planned knowing that there would be minicamp because I'm now part of a clown show organization in Jersey, the New York Jets. I love every second of it because, again, Super Bowl, this is the year. This is it. And then he's not even there. He missed all last year, but he was going to try to come back, right? Oh, what a guy. He's going to try and get back even though the season's over, but he can't come when the season's starting. He's a clown. The Jets are clowns. I love every second of it.
And to bring levity, go ahead.
It ain't gonna cost. They finding him like $100K.
Yeah,
that's like $100 for us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they was like, hey, you ain't coming to work, it'll cost you about $100. I know a ton of people who put out that $100, no problem, for 3 days. I ain't going to work. So it's not even a fine for him.
If they go on a run, he's going to be 41 in the playoffs. As someone who's 41, my knee still hurts from something from weeks ago.
But let's be honest.
Winner did it. Good luck.
But let's be honest. During these OTAs, that's why these dudes are wrapped in bubble wrap anyway. Yeah, so they're not going to be touched. Or if you get hurt during OTA, something was wrong with you coming in. So it really, it's like they got, like, the Jets have to show they have some control over Aaron Rodgers. Like $100K,
everyone knows they don't.
Like $100K means something to him. So it doesn't matter.
All right. So to help us bring levity to this as we close, our favorite administrator, Robert Abney, has joined us for our final segment. Robert, does any of this matter in the off season, or it's just something we've got to do? What say you, sir?
To quote someone, I believe he's from the DMV, we're talking about practice. Practice.
Not a game.
Not a game. It's practice. All of this exists to give us stuff to talk about in the off season, which you love. So that's what all this is. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I hear ayahuasca retreats in Nepal are nice this time of year. I mean, who knows what he's doing? It doesn't matter. No, he's got to come back, and they're not. The Jets aren't going to win because they're not going to win, and it's not going to have a lot to do with Aaron Rodgers. So.
All right. So with that, fans, again, within the next few weeks, you're going to hear our in-depth previews. Got to make sure George is on the AFC North show. So on behalf of our Cavalcade of Stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the iCoaches podcast. And we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The iCoaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams.
We hope you enjoyed today's show.
At
The iCoaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the iCoaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the iCoaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at iCoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the iCoaches Podcast.